This video is an introduction on common BIR forms. First, withholding tax forms. If an employer has an employee, they must file BIR Form 1601C or the monthly remittance return of income taxes withheld on compensation. If there are income payments subject to expanded withholding tax for monthly return, they must file BIR Form 0619E or the monthly remittance form of creditable income taxes withheld expanded. And for quarterly return, here is a BIR Form 1601EQ or the quarterly remittance return of creditable income taxes withheld expanded. When is the deadline of filing of withholding tax forms? For monthly returns, the deadline for EBIR and manual of filers is on or before the 10th day of the following month in which the withholding was made. For example, if the return is for the month of August, it must be filed on the 10th day of September. Also, please take note that the deadline for BIR Form 1601C for the month of December is on or before January 15 of the following year. For EFPS filers, the deadline of monthly return for Group A is 15 days, Group B 14 days, for Group C 13 days, for Group D 12 days, and for Group E 11 days following the end of the month. For BIR Form 1601EQ, whether EBIR, manual, and EFPS filers, the return shall be filed not later than the last day of the month following the close of the quarter during which the withholding was made. Now let us proceed to business tax forms. If the taxpayer is VAT registered or has gross sales exceeding 3 million pesos, they must file BIR Form 2550M or the monthly value-added tax declaration for the first 2 months of the quarter. And for quarterly return, they must file BIR Form 2550Q or the quarterly value-added tax return. If the taxpayer is non-VAT registered or has gross sales not exceeding 3 million pesos, they must file BIR Form 2551Q or the quarterly percentage tax return. When is the deadline of business tax forms? For EBIR and manual filers, the monthly return must be filed not later than the 20th day following the close of the month. For EFPS filers, for Group A, 25 days, for Group B, 24 days, for Group C, 23 days, for Group D, 22 days, and for Group E, 21 days following the end of the month. For quarterly return, whether manual, EBIR, or EFPS, the return must be filed not later than the 25th day following the close of each taxable quarter. Now let us proceed on the different annual income tax returns. For a resident citizen deriving income purely from compensation, he must file BIR Form 1700. For individuals engaged in the trade, business, or profession who are also earning compensation income must file BIR Form 1701. For individuals earning income purely from business, profession, and those who avail OST under graduated income tax rates or those who avail 8% optional tax, he must file BIR Form 1701A. For corporate, partnership, and other non-individual taxpayers subject to regular income tax rate, they must file BIR Form 1702RT. When is the deadline of annual income tax return? For individual taxpayers, the deadline of filing is on or before April 15 of each year. For corporate taxpayers, the deadline of filing is on or before the 15th day of the 4th month following the close of the taxpayer taxable year. Now let us know the different income tax forms. First, let's start with the quarterly tax returns. For corporate taxpayer, they must file BIR Form 1702Q or the quarterly income tax return for corporations, partnerships, and other non-individual taxpayers. For an individual who is a resident citizen engaged in trade, business or practice of profession within and without the Philippines, he must file BIR Form 1701Q or the quarterly income tax return for individuals, estates, and trusts. Now, when is the deadline of quarterly returns for income tax? For corporate taxpayers or the BIR Form 1702Q must be filed within 60 days following the close of each quarter. For individual taxpayers who will file BIR Form 1701Q, it must be filed on or before May 15 for the first quarter, on or before August 15 for the second quarter, and on or before November 15 for the third quarter. Lastly, annual information return. First, we have BIR Form 1604C or the annual information return of income taxes withheld on compensation. Another one is the BIR Form 1604E or the annual information return of creditable income taxes withheld, expanded, and income payments exempt from withholding tax. When is the deadline of annual information returns? For BIR Form 1604C, to be filed on or before January 31 of the year following the calendar year in which the compensation payment and other income payments were paid or accrued. For BIR Form 1604E, to be filed on or before March 1 of the year following the calendar year in which the income payments subject to expanded withholding tax or exempt from withholding tax were paid or accrued. For your reference, here is the list of different groups of business industry under EFPS. For Group A, for Group B, for Group C, Group D, Group E.